Hello, everybody. It's John King with Summit Funding. Thank you for joining me. It is Thursday, the 21st of April. Actually, it really isn't. I am recording this ahead of time. So if you caught my webinar last week, I was out of town, out of the continental United States. I am in beautiful Hawaii right now. You can tell from the background behind me, right? That mountainscape looks exactly like Hawaii. Yeah, maybe Haleakala, but probably not what you're expecting to see in Hawaii. I have pre-recorded this because I want to make promises to my family and to do as much as I can to not work on vacation, which is really all about delegation. So it plays right into what we're going to be talking about today, which is the art of delegation. So this is my Business Booster webinar every single Thursday at 1:30. Even when I'm on vacation, I will be broadcasting live, or at least pre-recording and broadcasting live the webinar on topics that have to do with building your business. So it might be specific. My biggest target audience is real estate agents, but the truth is this is for anybody who is a business owner, especially topics like that last week and this week, as we're talking about topics that have to do with running your business. These are topics that are applicable to any small business owner. Last week, we talked about the three hats of an entrepreneur, or three hats of a business owner, which is the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. If you missed that, go back and watch it. It really is helpful, especially leading into the art of delegation, because you really have to understand that the art of delegation sometimes means you're delegating to yourself. You wear the hat of being the entrepreneur and you set the vision for the future, and then you take that off and you put on the hat of the manager. And the manager says, well, these are all the tasks that have to get done, and this is the timeline that it needs to get done. And I've got to use my resources, human resources being one of the biggest ones, to delegate these tasks. And sometimes you're the only one you can delegate to, or often you're at least part of the team that you're delegating to. And so when you think about that, you've got to be able to delegate to yourself. You've got to be able to delegate to other people. And so there is a lot that goes into the art of delegation. And I want to make sure that I discuss all of that with you today. Before I move on, real quick, I want to remind you, again, every Thursday at 1:30 Pacific time, I do the Business Booster webinar. Every Friday at 12 noon, I do my Financial Fridays webinar. Tomorrow, I am going to be doing my live stream. It'll be pre-recorded, the last of my pre-recorded ones. So just last week, this week that I'm pre-recording them. Starting next week, I will be here live doing it with you. But next week's webinar is tomorrow's webinar, the 22nd, will be on the topic of demystifying insurance. So I'll have a special guest. I'll have a local insurance agent who's absolutely amazing at what she does. And she'll be talking through a lot of things that you need to know, that your clients need to know. We're going to focus more on homeowners insurance and that kind of thing, but we're going to talk about renters insurance. We're going to talk about business coverages. We're going to talk about life insurance. We're going to cover the entire gamut of things that people need to know to make sure that they are protecting themselves. Because there's a lot of things about insurance that people don't understand. They literally just say, hey, John, can you get me an insurance quote? Or they'll say to the realtor, can you get me an insurance quote? And they don't read it. They don't understand their coverages. And so I'm going to take an hour tomorrow and explain that. So go to rsvp.com in order to sign up for that one as well. Or you can just also sign up for my Business Booster there also. All right, let's dive in now and talk about the art of delegation. The first thing I want to talk about before we really get into delegation, though, is the concept of efficiency versus expansion. And this has to do with when someone is growing their business. And in infancy of your business, your focus is on, hey, it's an I business. It's all about me. I am the only employee of the business. And as you get busier, most people default to wanting to be more efficient. And say, hey, I'm I'm the only employee and I'm putting in, I started this business part-time. So I got my real job, my 40-hour week job, and then I do this part-time 20 hours a week. And then you say, you know what, I'm ready to pull the trigger and become full-time. So at that point you're expanding because you're expanding the number of hours that you're putting into your business. And for some of us who started our business straight away, you start out with 40 hours and you expand and say, well, now I got to go to 50 because I'm getting busier. I got to go to 60 hours a week because I'm getting busier. And you expand, but at a certain point, you can't work more hours. And most business owners stop right there and say, well, then I just have to focus on getting more efficient. I have to use tools to be more efficient with my time. I have to use automation to be more efficient with my time. And what I'll tell you is, yes, that is helpful. But if you've got a growing business, efficiency only gets you so far. If you are, if you say, hey, my capacity is that as a realtor, that I can have 5 buyers at a time. And with 5 buyers, I can be in 2 escrows. So I can have 5 buyers looking and 2 escrows going on, and you end up with 3 escrows going on. You got to figure out how to be more efficient. You can become a little bit more efficient with your time and manage a little bit more, but you can't really exponentially grow because you only have so many hours. And if it takes you a certain amount of time, you're stuck with not being able to grow much further. It requires expansion early on. If we just pretend, yes, I'm pretending, that all of us business owners only work 40 hours a week. Yes, I'll wait for a second while you guys stop laughing. I know we work way more than 40 hours a week, but let's pretend you only work 40 hours a week. Then when you hire another employee, you've just doubled your capacity. Even if you're less efficient, and you will be less efficient, and by the way, guys, this has a lot to do with delegation. You will be less efficient when you delegate. You can do it better by yourself, which is the thinking that stops most people from growing. I can do anything better than anybody on my team. Well, that isn't really true. That is true in the beginning, but the truth is, over time, your team should get better at you than you at doing things. But in the beginning, it's very, very true. You're going to be the best person at doing any activity. So you have to understand that when you expand, your efficiency actually goes down. You become less efficient. And so if you were in a manufacturing plant and you worked 40 hours a week producing, 100 widgets in 40 hours, you hire another employee, you're not going to produce 200 widgets in 80 hours, because remember, you got 40 of your hours and 40 of theirs. You're going to produce, 150 widgets. So you're going to get more widgets produced. Your maximum is 100 widgets because that's all you can do in your 40 hours. But you're not going to double that immediately. It's going to take time and learning the art of delegation, learning the process of managing through the tasks. And that's what's going to really help you over time. You're now going to grow. And each time that you add team members, you become even less efficient. And so at a certain point, you're going to have 4 people on board. And technically, you should be able to create 400 widgets in a month, and you're only able to create 225. But you're making 225 sales, you're creating 225 widgets, and it would be impossible for you to do that by yourself. Now that you have those 4 people on board, now that you have the ability to produce 400, because you could theoretically in a perfect world produce 100 widgets an hour, the reality is now you focus on efficiency. Because if you become 10% more efficient on producing 225 units, you've just grown your number of units from 225 to 250 simply by focusing on efficiency after you've built a bigger team. Do not make the mistake of focusing on expansion when you're small and you're saying, "Hey, I'm producing 100 widgets." A 10% improvement is only 10 more widgets. But when you grow and you're producing 225 of them and you have a 10% improvement, now it grows you by 22 and a half units or widgets that you're producing. Hope I didn't go too deep into this, guys, but it's a super important concept that when you think about delegation, your efficiency will go down as you expand. But that is a necessary part of the process. You also have to understand you are never going to achieve 100% efficiency again. It is likely never going to be as perfect as it was with you doing it by yourself. As a matter of fact, one of the things I talk a lot about, and I'll bring it up a couple of times, but I'll bring up my slide for it right now, is what is the expectation when you're working with a team member? Perfection is them doing it 80% as good as you would have done it. So perfection is them producing 80 widgets an hour, even though you could have produced 100. Because if you set your expectation that they're going to be as good as you were, you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to understand you're going to have a 20% failure rates. And I could get really deep into business and economics. I'll just say really simply, there is a concept called acceptable loss or acceptable amount of failure. And when you think about an assembly line, if an assembly line never had any defects, it means it's not moving fast enough. You can turn up the speed of the assembly line and every 10th widget will be broken. But you doubled the speed and you doubled the output and you only lost 10%. That's a worthwhile loss. It's okay. That's why new cars come with a warranty. That's why they're okay paying for that. Because if they built a perfect car that didn't need repairs, they would be building cars really slow and not producing enough. And so this is all about efficiency versus expansion. But I will let you in on a little secret. When they fail the 20% of the time, when they don't do it as good as you did the 20% of the time, it actually lets you be the hero. And I'm not saying creating bad outcomes so that you can look good, but it actually demonstrates your value. Think about this for a moment. Let's pretend that you are a financial planner. And I'm not sure if I haven't thought through this analogy, but I'm sure I'll wing it and figure it out just fine. By the way, I'm going to stop for a quick second, guys. If you have any questions about anything, please post in comments. Recognize I'm not doing this live, so I will go back and respond to your comments if you have questions. If you have a gosh, John, that was a great thought or a great idea, or I struggle with that, I'd appreciate that comment too, because I really want us to participate and share what the struggles are and what challenges we have. And so please make sure that you're commenting on the video, make sure that you like it and that you share it. Just recognize that because I'm not broadcasting, I'm broadcasting live, but I didn't record it live. So I won't be responding real time to your comments. So what I'm getting back to is I'm getting back to being the hero. And if you're perfect at everything that you do, your clients will take you for granted. They won't understand the value that you provide for them. So I'll use the example of a financial planner. And if the financial planner is doing all the work himself and setting up all of the accounts and making sure that everything, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed and everything is perfect, that's great. But your clients just come to expect, well, yeah, well, it must not be a very difficult job to do because they don't see what the challenges are that you were able to overcome ahead of time. But if you work as a team, and your team member misses something and it creates a challenge, you're able to have a process in place to double check, and that's key. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Process in place to double check, and you catch it. And then you call the client and say, hey, I wanted to touch base with you. I need your help. We ran into a challenge. When my team was putting this together, they missed a question that actually caused the paperwork to set up your account in this particular way. And right now, your account is set up as an individual account instead of in a trust. And the truth is, that would create a major problem for you down the road if something were to happen to you or your spouse and you didn't have the property in a trust or you didn't have this financial account in a trust. But here's the good news. I have a process in place that checks for that, and it's not too late. We're going to get it fixed. And that's really where my value comes in, Mr. Client, is I want to make sure that none of these things ever come up. So I apologize that it became a challenge, but rest assured, I fixed it and I've got a process in place that, humans are humans, but I'm going to always oversee and make sure that you are well taken care of and that no issues come up that become a disaster down the road. You demonstrate your value better when issues come up during the process. So delegating and understanding that perfection is 80% as good as how you would do it leaves the other 20% for you to jump in and fix. But guess what? You're spending this much time fixing the 20% instead of this much time doing 100% of the work yourself. That's the key shift you have to make in your mind if you choose to grow a team. And that's really the most important thing we need to talk about for a moment is, do I want to grow? You don't have to. It is a choice if you want to grow your team, or are you happy with what you've got? There is nothing wrong with being a small business. Most large businesses started out as small businesses and they chose to want to grow into bigger businesses. But there's nothing wrong. There's millions of small businesses out there that are just happy being a small business. So I do not want you to misunderstand this as saying I have to grow team members. John said that I'm failing if I'm not. You have to fulfill your vision of what you want your business to be. You have to put that entrepreneur hat on and say, who am I and what am I building? And when you finally make that decision and you say, you know what? I'm building a one-man operation. I am super happy being a plumber that simply goes out every day and unclogs toilets and puts back together sinks and whatever else, replaces water heaters. That's what I want to do. I enjoy doing it. I want to be the technician. I got to spend a little time as a manager. I got to spend a little time as the entrepreneur. But it is a new job. It is a job to manage a team. and it takes more work and different skills. And if you don't want that job, there is nothing wrong with deciding I don't want to grow a team. If you want to grow a team, I'll help you over time. I'll show you how to do that. We'll talk about things during this Business Booster webinar series about hiring and about how to do reviews on your teams. We'll talk about all of these topics going forward. But what I want to explain to you right now is it is not necessary to build a team, but you can still delegate even if you don't have a team. So I'm going to take a sideline here and say delegation is simply having someone else perform a task for you. Now, before I go any further, and I don't think I put this into any of my slides, I did not. So I want to make a super important point. Like this is a super, super important point. And that is there is only one thing you cannot delegate. Now, for those of you, whether you're watching this on my live broadcast that I pre-recorded, or if you're watching it after the fact, I'd love for you right now to put in the comments, what is the one thing you cannot delegate? Because I'm curious, and a lot of people think a little different about this, and they think, oh, I can't delegate. So hopefully there's some comments coming in right now. Hopefully you post some comments before I tell you the answer. I'm purposefully waiting and not telling you the answer because I'm curious what you guys are thinking. What is the one thing you cannot delegate? A lot of people think, I bet there's answers coming in right now. Well, I can't delegate sales. Well, I don't know if that's really true. You can delegate sales. You can hire a salesperson. You don't have to be, I can't delegate the actual performance of the job because the job's about me. The client is hiring me. Again, that's not true. You have to shift your business a little bit, but you can delegate the actual technical work of doing what you're doing. You don't have to be the technician. You can actually choose any role that you want. But here's the thing, as a business owner, you cannot ever, ever delegate the ultimate responsibility for the job being done right. You cannot delegate that ultimate responsibility. The buck stops here. It is up to you to make sure that the job is done right. And do not delegate that. Do not blame anybody else. If your team does something wrong, it's your fault and you take ownership. Matter of fact, I rarely say it was my team. I just call, hey, I apologize. We goofed this up. Let me explain what happened. Let me explain what we're doing to fix it. Let me explain how I'm going to make it right. But you cannot delegate the ultimate responsibility of doing the job right. Hopefully you got that one right. If you didn't, you failed the test. Go ahead and hang up now. Just kidding. Okay. So if you don't have a team, you can still delegate through outside resources. Maybe you hire somebody, not hire, maybe you pay as a one-off service, somebody who is in the same industry as you that can help you when they're not as busy. Give you an example in the real estate industry. Maybe you've got too many buyers that are out shopping for homes. And you have decided, you know what? I'm going to ask one of my peers in the office if they are willing to take my buyers out and look at homes. And every home that they go look at, I'm going to pay them $25, $50. I don't know, pick a number. Or I'm going to pay them a little bit of, if the client writes an offer on that home, I'm going to pay them 10% of the commission. You can do it any number of ways, but the reality is you don't have to have a team member that you're responsible for to delegate. You can hire an outside company. If you want to delegate your social media, there's lots of companies who you can hire to do social media for you, but you're still delegating to them. Your vision needs to be executed by them, and you have to make sure that you don't look at it the other way. They are not telling you what to do. They're the experts in it, but you're the one that has the vision of the outcome, and you need to explain that vision to them. So even if you don't have a team, you absolutely can delegate. Now, most of what I talk about from here is about delegating to a team that is yours, but some of the tactics will also be applicable even if you're delegating to outside vendors, independent contractors, somebody that you're going to hire to perform a particular job for you. So the first thing that I want to talk about is a couple of mistakes that people make when you're delegating to someone within your team. The number one mistake that I see people make is what I call splitting the work each day. Now, let me walk you through what happens. And I've been professionally coached for the last 11 years. I've been a professional coach for the last 5 years, and I've helped my students and I've watched my peers in coaching grow a team. And I personally have grown a team. I now have 6 team members, and I've made this mistake and I've seen other people make this mistake. And as you grow a team, you're going to make this mistake. And that is when you think about the work that you want a team member to do, you don't think about it in, I want them to do this, this, and this. You think about it in, I'm going to hire somebody so that they can help me get all this stuff done. And that's the wrong way of thinking. And let me explain to you very specifically what I'm talking about. When you come in every morning, you list on your to-do list everything that you have to do, and there's 30 things that have to get done that day. And the mistake is that we take those 30 things and say, okay, well, I'm going to split it in half. Or maybe you're smart enough and say, yeah, I'm not going to split it in half because I'm going to be more efficient than they are. So I'll give them 10 of the 30 things and I'll do the other 20. Okay, that's a strategy. But think about how this repeats the next day. The next day you have 30 additional things to be done that are some are similar, but some of them have nothing to do with the 30 you did the day before. And you split those and you say, here's 10 different things to do. The problem is your team member did 10 tasks yesterday and 10 completely different tasks today. And then the next day, they're going to have 10 completely different tasks because, hey, today we've got to do a live broadcast. And so I need you to figure out how to do a live broadcast and get it scheduled and post about it and go ahead and get it done. And that's kind of how we delegate. Like we just tell everybody, okay, well, I'm sure you know what I mean by that. So what I want you to do is I want you to log into StreamYard and I want you to schedule the broadcast and then I want you to create all of the outline template and I want you to invite everybody and remind them to come. And that's the process of delegation. I'm going to explain it later in a couple minutes why that process right there is super broken. Everything that I just said, super wrong way to delegate. But the first thing I'll tell you is even if they figured out what you wanted them to do, you're only having them do that once and they're not going to repeat it again the next day or the next week and they're going to forget it. And the most important reason why this is a major mistake is because people crave consistency and stability. Now you're going to say, John, no, they don't. I don't crave consistency or stability. That's because you and I are the crazy ones that are entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur is willing to deal with chaos and risk making nothing for the opportunity to have everything that they want. The average human, the average person does not have that risk tolerance, nor do they have the desire for dealing with chaos like we do. They want consistency. They want steady Eddie. They want to know what's expected of them. They want to know the rules. Think about if you're playing a sport. If the rules changed every single time you went out on the field, how do you know if you're winning? How do you know if you're supposed to go left or right? You don't understand the rules of the game. And we're changing the game every single day. And we're giving them a different game to play every single day. So do not just split the work. Instead, decide what are their three main jobs. Now, they can be big picture jobs, like, hey, your number one job is helping me manage my social media. Anna on my team, that has become one of her jobs. She is actually helping me drive this right now. So all the little banners that you see coming up on the bottom, Anna does that. As we're switching PowerPoint and stuff, she's doing all of that. She's helping me behind the scenes, and I've taught her how to do that. And she's doing an amazing job. So let's give Anna a shout out. Great job, Anna. So Anna, one of her main jobs is social media. She's creating the thumbnails for everything. She's helping me upload them to YouTube. She's helping me remember when I need to create my next broadcast. If you enjoy this information, she just told you need to like and share my stuff. Great job, Anna. But the point is that is one of her main jobs. There's lots of little jobs in between that, but anything that has to do with social media, I'm giving it to Anna. And she becomes the expert in that. I've got five other team members. They have nothing to do with my social media. As you're bigger, it's easier to specialize within your team members. But even when you start growing, you need to start by being really specific about, Anna, this is what I want you to work on. I want you to work on social media. I want you to help me with lead intake. And those are your two main jobs. And those are Anna's two main jobs. She helps me with lead and preparation of files for clients and scheduling them to meet with me. And she helps me with my social media. Anything that comes in those two categories, she's going to work on. But if something comes in that has to do with, hey, an interest rate lock is expiring and the client's upset, Anna has nothing to do with that. That doesn't fit into her realm. That's where you don't want to make the mistake of just splitting the work because people don't understand what's expected of them. Mistake number two, don't do the work for them. It is hard. This is really, really hard. And this is about you. We know how it's supposed to be done. And we get frustrated when somebody isn't doing it the way that we want to do it. And so we make the mistake of just taking it over. Well, guess what? If I take it over for Anna every time that it isn't the way I expect it, does she learn? She doesn't. So I've got to give feedback, but you also have to stop upward delegation. Upward delegation means that if I ask Anna to do something and she goes, hey, John, I wasn't able to get this done and our deadline is an hour. And so it's time for me to go home. And so hopefully you can do it. See you later. Bye. That's upward delegation. And you've got to stop that. You got to set a rule that says, no, no, no. If you need my help, we got to talk about it earlier on in the process. I will help you. I will make sure that you understand what's supposed to be done in the next 5 minutes before we're done. I'll explain more of the tactics of how all of this works. But the fact is, you need to not, delegation is not a two-way street. If you need help, raise your hand and I will help you. But I will not do the job for you. I pay you to do a job. I need you to do the job that I am paying you to do. And that's critical because our OCD, our desire to get it right, our desire to move quickly is going to say, I can do that faster if I grab it myself. You can, but then why'd you hire somebody? You have zero purpose of them being there if you allow them to upward delegate or if you do it yourself. So here's how the process works. The first thing you have to do is you have to have a team meeting every single day where you delegate everything, even if you're the only employee, even if it is a team of me. The best thing you can do is to have a meeting once a day where you're sitting down and writing a to-do list every single day. As a matter of fact, I every single day print my calendar. So I've got my calendar right here. Yeah, you can't really see it that well. There you go. There's my calendar. And on the side here, I'm writing down everything I'm supposed to do. My list is pretty small because when you first start out with a team, everything belongs to you and the few things that fit into somebody else's main jobs goes to them. As you grow bigger, everything belongs to the team. And in this case, it's okay to upwardly delegate because I'm now one of the resources. So my team says, hey, John, our process says you're supposed to be the one that calls the client to lock the interest rate. This client's ready to have his rate locked. We schedule an appointment for you to talk with him today at 10 a.m. That's me doing my job, but my team is putting the process in place for me. So I have fewer things that are on my plate because I have a bigger team. And as your team grows, there hits a tipping point where now John has three main jobs. So my main job is taking care of my referral partners. So that is communicating with realtors, doing things like this where I'm providing value to my referral partners. My second job is strategic advice to clients. Now, that doesn't mean my main job is looking at paycheck stubs and W-2s for clients. My team handles that. My job is strategic advice to the clients. And then my third job is overseeing the team and making sure that we are delivering on every promise that we have made to everybody we work with. So if something falls into that where, hey, we're not delivering, it comes back on me and I got to take care of it. But I have my three main jobs and the team takes care of the rest. So having a meeting every day where you talk about today, here's all the things we have to do. Who's going to handle this one? And write it down. Who's going to handle this one? And write it down. Can we fit this in today? No, we cannot. Great, then let's reschedule this for tomorrow and let's tell the person it's not going to get done today. When you delegate, you have to be super clear on who's going to do it, what needs to be done, where, when, and how. So this goes back to what I said earlier about when I said, hey, Anna, I need you to schedule a live stream. I need you to put together all the PowerPoint presentation, and I need you to invite everybody and remind them that they're going to be there and create the thumbnail for it. Okay, John, well, what's the topic? Where do I find that? Who am I inviting? What system do I use to invite them? How do I track the invitations? Am I texting them or am I emailing them or am I calling them? You have to be really specific about your expectations when you're delegating. The problem is we expect our team members to be mind readers. We expect them to know, well, obviously I meant send them the YouTube link. Okay, John, well, but you broadcast this on YouTube and on LinkedIn and on Facebook and Twitter. So I don't know which one you wanted me to do it. And if we don't give clear instructions, we then later get upset at the team member for not doing what we wanted them to do, when really it's our fault. Here's another major shift, though. We're used to doing things our way. And therefore, we're going to say, well, Anna, what you need to do is you have to do it in this order exactly. And you have to make sure that you do this exactly and use this tool to do it. And the fact is, that's called micromanagement. Delegation is totally different than micromanagement. So what you need to understand is manage the outcome, not the process. If Anna says, hey, I want to use a different tool or I want to schedule it in a different way, perfect. Let me know what you're thinking. As she's starting to learn, I want to hear more about it. The more I delegate, the more autonomy I give her. And so don't micromanage the process. If you're getting the outcome you expected, your team has done an amazing job. Guys, remember, put comments in here as we're wrapping up. I've got a couple of minutes left on covering a couple of things, but I want you to comment right now on what the number one takeaway, the number one nugget that you've gotten. Please put it in comments right now to share with everybody else that's watching this. Please make sure you like and share this, especially with other business owners that you think could use this valuable information. So make sure you manage the outcome. Do not micromanage the process. Recognize it takes about 6 months for someone to understand their job and do it well. So show grace. Grace is treating someone better than they deserve to be treated. Grace is super, super important. And grace is something that some people will say is earned. But the truth is, when you're hiring a team member in, you just have to understand you need to show grace. They haven't earned it yet, but they're not going to understand it. And you have to give them the tools, including the authority to make decisions and to make mistakes. I tell my team, you're going to run into a brick wall, but I want you to run as fast as you can. I don't want you to be paralyzed out of fear. I'm going to get mad. I will never get mad at you for making a decision. I'll get mad at you for not making a decision because of you are afraid of the outcome. I can fix anything you do, but if you didn't do anything, I can't fix it. So make a decision. I'm giving you the authority to make a decision and the authority and permission to make mistakes, because people cannot live in an environment that they are afraid of doing something wrong. Couple more things real quick and we'll wrap up here. Inspect what you expect. You have to have a process of follow-up. You have to have a process the next day. Hey, did you finish everything that was on the checklist? Have them turn in a checklist that says, hey, every time I do this, I followed all of these steps. The truth is, if an employee turns in a checklist every single day, you only have to look at one checklist once a week, and they don't know which one you're going to look at. And so it's a random sampling, a random audit. You're just double checking a little bit. You don't have to double check everything. But if you randomly pick one and double check it, hey, walk me through what you were thinking and why you did this. Let me coach you through how I think we should do this different. Now you're inspecting what you're expecting without redoing all of the work yourself. Give feedback often. You want to give feedback often, whether it's positive or negative. It's called the 1 Minute Manager process. If you haven't read the book, The 1 Minute Manager, super, super good book. And we don't want to hold back our concerns. We don't want to hold back our feedback. We want to give feedback consistently, quickly, and using the sandwich method. Talk about the sandwich method at some point down the road. The last thing I will tell you, I'm just a little bit over 30 minutes. Reward the wins. The best thing you can do is catch people doing things right. Our tendency is to give them a whammy when they did something wrong. But if I publicly in front of everybody say, my God, Anna, you crushed it. You did a great job when you did it. I loved how you did A and B and C. Everybody else on the team's like, well, how do I get that kind of praise? And I could do that same job with Anna. Did I do A and B and C? And everybody else recognizes, oh, well, maybe I should change and be more like Anna. Because, and by the way, all my team members are amazing. Anna just happens to be the one that I'm using as the example today. So reward the wins. Point out to people when they are doing things well. People respond better to positive feedback of the things that they have done well than negative feedback about what they're doing wrong. And when you don't point something out, if all you talk about is the good things that they're doing, they recognize, man, John never talked about this. Maybe I need to do it a little bit different. I'm going to give them feedback on what I don't like, but give them more feedback on what I do like. Guys, I really appreciate your time today. Please make sure to join me tomorrow for my Financial Friday, where we demystify insurance. We're going to take great care of explaining the process of insurance and how it all works. It is also pre-recorded, so I'll tell you right now, it was absolutely an amazing session, and you're going to love the information that we give you. Join me next Thursday for Business Booster live stream at 1:30, where I'm going to talk about lead generation ideas. We need to think about lead generation. This is going to be about realtors, but also business in general. How do we generate leads? How do we think about leads? What is a lead? We're going to talk about all of that stuff next week. It will be not only broadcast live, but it'll be recorded live, so you'll be able to comment live there as well. Guys, have an absolutely amazing rest of the week. I will see you tomorrow on my broadcast.